Okay, hi everyone. Good to have you here as we prepare for the pilot. Um, and we place the date of, which gives us enough time, uh, early October. So during this time, we can work out the LOI. I've stated through messages to you that we will have an LOI on the pilot program, which will be for 6 months, and that's something that's important before we actually do a full licensing rollout. So we have quite a number of participants of the pilot, participant locations across Africa and Asia, India mainly, and now also hopefully Pakistan also. So when there are more pilots involved, pilot locations involved, it also is quite good because you get more feedback, and also we're working through the what is needed initially, and also we will be applying for grants and funding, and then that sort of saves on costs. Like per pilot location, we will sort of budget a certain amount, and that will be applied for fundraising for that particular location. So what I've done here is just some steps of how we need to prepare for this, and the sort of the initial project plan, and also the some of the milestones. I'll give you, for example, here. Can you go to the next slide, David Winter? Yeah. So I shared this before, how we put that into phases. So now we're in phase 0, 2 months of preparation. We're preparing the LOI. I've got a draft LOI. Okay. And there's no upfront fees to be paid because we want to make sure that the barriers to entry are very low. We will work with you to, like I said, to raise funds to cover the pilot costs. But as much as possible, to look at what you already have in your country locations, whether it's an existing space and all that. I will share more on that. So resource planning and fundraising, that's the phase 0. The phase 1 is the months 1 to 3, and phase 2 is the months 4 to 6, so 6 months. I broadly put here community consultation, training setup, feedback systems. And phase 2 is staff training, parent education, hub development. Okay. Then after that, we will have a full license rollout. And why the pilot is so important is because when we show that all these various countries are doing a pilot and we're getting real world involvement, um, it helps us also with fundraising. Okay. And as a fundraising benefits all of you. Because this is the first time that the Arini method will really go global, and you are part of the pioneers, let's say. Um, yeah, so next slide. Yeah, so these are some of the points which I quickly had, little discussion with Dr. Arini, and she listed out some of these points here. And for today's meeting, we will just go through what this pilot will involve and what we need to prepare, so that when we draft out the agreements, we have all this in place and we can work out a proper project plan for the pilot. And David Winter will help us with that through PHC port. Okay. So, Dr. Arini, I pass it over to you to explain about, the pilot phases. I've just put this on the first 3 months. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, and there's an L missing off the learning center there. But
Okay.
it's just understanding that each of your environments will be different. Each of you will have different degrees of availability of what the resources are. But as Tahira was saying, is that let's try and work it as closely as to what we've got. We start small and that we gradually build our capacity, and not to be overwhelmed by all the different stages. And so it's first of all really thinking about, if we're going to think about what we do locally, it will be probably as many people who want to participate to understand what their social brain is. And then being able to have a link to the families where it begins in the home. So being able to identify the homes and the people that are willing to be part of this pilot. Then see how they then engage. If possible, that group of parents might be in a neighbourhood area. So the first phase is helping the family to know and understand each other and to be able to connect and communicate and engage with each other and talk in language which is keeps the brain emotionally safe. Whereas in the neighbourhood, it's about families joining together for children a little bit older to be able to build a group and that they do their learning together so that the parents are then working with the children and working in an arranged or organised environment so that they can understand and work out how to follow the interests of the child. Whereas the third phase is more where you then have a learning centre that you may have already there available. But if you're then planning towards it, then it's being able to what is necessary for them to build the capacities. And I was reading in one of the submissions about they're moving towards competency-based learning, which is great in the wider community because then you can define what capabilities you're looking for. And then what competencies you're going to develop as you go along. So these notes here are really just some suggestions of how each group can start to engage and work out what they need to do. So in this phase, it's about being able to identify what you do have and communicating that to Tahira and myself so that we can then see what can we do if there's shortfalls or what do we have to do to compensate to be able to do it or how long we need to spend in each phase.
This part I have left to phase two, which is the next 3 months. I've left it open, Dr. Arini, because I want to sort of have a dialogue with you on this. Um, Based on the points you gave me, I just put it on the first 3 months. What do you feel should be shifted to the next 3 months, or what needs to be added in the next 3 months? How do you feel it should be done?
Yes, and probably this second phase depends on how much you're able to identify and work out in the first phase, and whether we need to modify the way that we introduce it to suit your circumstances.
Mm. So it's like a reevaluation, I should say. Okay. And can you just go back to the first, the earlier slide, David? Yeah. So space where training will, for the training, equipment needed for, sorry for the typos, equipment needed for video conferencing the Zoom. That should not be a problem, I think, for everyone. Volunteers, those who will be involved. Uh, then any particular requirements for these volunteers, other than, I would say, committee members, right? Or educators. Social brain map. We will be providing that. Who will lead the group? Okay. Mm, right. Identify learning center space. Okay,
Yeah,
Ali. Yeah.
there's one question to ask here is that as the leaders or the group that's organising the Eco Society, would it be good for them to actually go through the same work, even though we might have people with families we identify or
Yeah.
neighbourhood we identify, whether it's good for the leaders of the group to actually go through the pilot with understanding what it is that we're getting across and the conceptual understandings. There are not a huge number of conceptual understandings, but they are opposite to the way we've been raised and brought up. And so, therefore, being able to learn together as a group, discuss the implications, what you've got to do to help and support the participants so that they can actually manage that. And particularly when we've often known behaviour and education to traditionally to have been done by methods of deprivation and consequences and logical outcomes and things like that, knowing that it's actually the dead opposite of that. It's acquiring capabilities. It's acquiring the language of the virtues. It's acquiring acknowledging the appropriate behavior. And so that's really the whole challenge of this method and why it's so effective is because we're working with the natural way the brain has worked. But it's not our conditioning and it's not our learning and it's not our understanding. So managing that change process is something that's important for the group to be able to work out how to handle that.
Okay. So we should get the committee members of each eco-society to go through this. What I've done here in this slide, I just it was sort of more like a brain dump and discussing with Arini. We're going to have more systematic plan, which we'll share with all of you, and then get the committee members involved in this process, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And maybe we should just open it to the floor on what kind of equipment and the last part here, point 9, they have access to, and what spaces are available now. Open to the floor, Kola or Evelyn or Numan, Ahmed. Yeah.
Okay, can we ask questions at this point?
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. I am particular about the number because the points raised here has no definite number as to the number to be included in pilot. And also, though I've seen 3 months, that is which covers the first phase, but we really need to know as to number that the first phase will accommodate, or the first phase of the pilot will accommodate. So that is my question at this point.
I think the number will depend on how many are prepared to participate, because I envisage if we're using video conferencing, it's a matter of how many will you do it in a one location and have one screen. I don't know how the technology works, or will it involve a number of people all coming in from their own environments. I'm not familiar with how that would work. And so that's why I was saying to you, you might decide, look, I want 5 participants or I want 10 participants. The way we can offer it on video conferencing, if you have a support person locally, the numbers don't really matter. Probably the more that you can engage, the more that you will be able to take advantage of. But it's not saying, look, we only want 3 or 5 people involved. But the model will be a train the trainer model. So out of that group that participate, there might emerge somebody who has a particular skill, or you might have identified somebody at the beginning that's got a skill to be able to carry it forward. So it's about what you can manage locally in working with your facilities and with the technology. It can be recorded, and then other people can then follow through with it.
Okay, this is noted. Thank you, Doctor.
Anybody else wants to ask? Because like I said, this is just a draft and we're going to fine tune it. And it's open to questions. There are a few people trying to get in. Wait a minute. Let me see. Sonika, you're in. Okay. Sonika's here from India. Sonika, we were just going through the pilot a draft plan of the activities and what need to prepare and all that. You can see this is just like I said, just a brain dump of all the points, and it's open to discussion. Phase one, just two parts, phase one and phase two for 6 months. Any questions or points raised or concerns? We're looking at early October to start the pilot, and then this time will give us preparation time to work with you and get LOIs and all that.
I think in the absence of any question and for sake of time, we can move to the next page.
Okay, yeah, but the next page, we are still determining what would be part of the next phase, which is the next 3 months. And what we talked about is actually a reevaluation of what has been started. What do you feel, Dr. Arini, at the end of the 6 months pilot, what do you feel would be a measurement or like what needs to be completed as before we actually do a full licensing rollout? What do you think is a matrix?
I was thinking about that aspect, and I was thinking that in the delivery of the program is that there's obviously knowledge to be imparted about the various key elements that make up how do we educate in the home, how do we educate in the community. But then that there be another, apart from the delivery of the information, that there be another interactive forum where they can talk about how they've applied the knowledge within their environment, what they have found, what they found difficult, what would help them to understand more in that particular area. So, for example, one of the things in the home would is that if the couple understand the social brain that they have, then them actually applying that in that week or fortnight, whatever the duration is, that they then are practicing certain key activities that they've agreed that they will work with. So then it's a matter of being able to report or to be able to say, well, I really learned and understand that my husband needs time to think about something, and that I don't expect a direct answer from him, but that I can be patient and wait until he's able to think about what he needs to do. So part of the process in the home is really being able to enable all to relate to each other, understanding each other's style and process. So the outcome, I would say, is that they feel that they've grown in capacity to relate to each other, that they've actually understood how they can day by day use the teachable moments of their family to be able to help them to make sense of their world. So it's really just being able to apply some key activities and key concepts and then give feedback on that so that they can then continue to have conversations in their family, conversations in their neighbourhood of what their learning is, what their understanding is, so that in order for this to grow and develop, it's built on trust. And so therefore it's about building trust in the first instance and building competency that they feel that they're capable of doing what they need to be, and that what is the society learning about what resources they need, what they need to support them, so that it becomes a evolving, self-perpetuating thing. So when you're talking about an outcome at the end of it, it's really, are people able to ask questions? Are people able to apply some of the information to their day-to-day life? Are they able to think creatively about how they can make it work more effectively? What are they learning from it? So it's really that whole process of where we start to learn to self-reflect, and that we can then change our action and our way that we interrelate with each other and the way we build capacity in a very systematic and a sustainable way.
Can I say something, Dr. Arini? I'm thinking that
Yeah.
what I've read so far is that these 9 points, some of them are to be ticked off and done. Some of them are to be started, and we see what happens while they're in progress. And I think the next page is really the result of that initial treatment of each of these 9 points. So it's some of these things are live, and we'll know what to put in slide 2 as a result of what happens in this slide 1. Is that a fair understanding?
Yes, yeah. And I mean, for example, in a normal relationship, often if we have a disagreement, we have a conflict in doing it. So it would be nice to know if one of the outcomes is that there's less conflict, there's more consultation, there's more agreement about planning goals and moving forward. So, some of those, and you will have some guidelines on that, David, about what are some of the outcomes that we would hope to see at the end of that. Now, when I've done it in normal life and in normal settings, what people say to me is that you have totally changed my way of thinking. My life could never go back to the way it was. I now understand myself. I now understand my partner is that I've attracted somebody who has a complement to me, is not the same as me, and how I can accommodate their differences. So, there's a whole series of structural things that happen in the relationship because of the understanding that grows about each other person and giving them a way of being able to construct conversations and consult together to be able to get greater peace and harmony. Because we tend to be built on I'm right and you're wrong. And it's being able to understand that there's a higher order principle involved here. It's more important to be unified than right. And so that takes some work to be able to subdue our egos and to be able to have a listening ear and understanding that person's not trying to be difficult, they're just wired differently. And what can we learn about them and how can we incorporate that into the way we interact with each other?
Right. So do we move on then? I think
Yeah. There's one point which, thank you, Dr. Arini, one point by Evelyn. Evelyn, you asked the question, can we get a write-up as a guideline to what we're going to do in each phase? Yes, of course.
Yes, yes. And I'm just designing that at the moment, and I'd like to discuss that with Tahira of what would be, because there's so many ways you can go in this type of approach. But we've got to do the most effective and to be able to be time careful because we're all busy people. And what can we do? So that I've done some thinking about all of that. I originally worked out all of the thing that we would train people to be the trainers of the next area. But I think that to start with the pilot program,
Yeah.
it's important to understand what are the steps, what's involved, what is the approach, so that then it can be reinforced. And then probably the next phase, we probably need to emerge from that trainers who will then take specific aspects and they might specialise just in parenting. Another one might specialise in neighbourhood circles. Another one might specialise in wise choices so that you've got expertise to call upon in your community and that if anyone falls over that's been trained or not there anymore, we're not then losing the whole program. We've got to have enough people that we can call upon to be supported to be able to keep the program going.
Yeah. So this means you will touch upon all the various ones, wise choices.
Yes. So it's like awareness raising. This pilot program, we look at it, is awareness raising and looking at what are the elements of what make up the program. And then the next phase would then be a much more in-depth thing. So I think just an overview of all the elements involved is what I've been thinking anyway.
I think so, yeah, just for the pilot. And then when the full licensing roll out, then you'll actually have the appointing of a director of training, actual setup of the center,
Yes.
all those. Yeah. Okay. I'd like to ask, yeah, we won't be going, thanks for showing this, David Winter, but I'm not going to go through that. That
Okay.
we'll do later once we've finalized. I'm going to fine tune all that. I just want to ask the eco-society leaders here whether they have a location for this training to be conducted. Your existing locations or places where they can sponsor? Evelyn or Anatu?
With the locations
Uh,
here.
Else, have you got locations or
yeah, yes, I think with regards to location, I think we've already mentioned that in our earlier presentation that getting a location for an activity within the ecosystem won't be a challenge, and which I remember uh, a particular issue of ownership was also raised by Mr. David, which we answered. So, in summary, location of particular space won't be a challenge to us.
won't be a challenge? Okay.
Yeah.
Sonika is saying not sponsor, but we can look at paid get together somewhere in India and Indian schools. Sonika, you would like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, can you hear me? I'm so sorry. I cannot see what's happening. Can you see me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what I'm proposing is that people who are interested, I can have a few people put it out as an advertisement that there's this new way called the Arini way, and these are the headings, and I can put it on the social media, and people who are interested can pay for it to attend this meeting, and then we can sort of have train the trainers. The trainers are trained and they can further train, go back to their schools and introduce it, but they pay for their own stay and the classes that they're going to have. What do you
That's
think
good.
of that?
Yeah, because then they'll take it seriously, right?
Yeah, because something, they don't value things that comes for
Yeah, they
free.
don't value things
But
which are free. I know in India it's like that. Yeah, or anywhere. Mm.
yeah, not only that, that would also, because I would love to have something that Ma'am Arini holds, and she has the wealth of the wisdom that she has, and the wealth of uh, the research she holds. It needs to be, I feel personally that it should be distributed to people, especially in India. Being a principal of a school, I can organize it. I can take permission from my director's management
Mm.
to hold it
Yeah,
within the vicinity, or maybe in a hotel or somewhere where they can stay and have food for how many days we can decide. And
yeah.
if I get about 40 to 50 people who pay for the curriculum and understand this way, and if they would choose to take it on, they pay for their stay and for the course.
That's
I
good.
am ready to hold
Just
something
to
like
be
that.
clear, this program, this pilot is not supposed to be free. It's not. So what I mentioned earlier is that it is
Uh-huh.
supposed to be paid, but then the eco societies do not pay anything up front. The eco society
Yeah.
community,
So
but we
let's
want to
see.
budget that as part of the grant application and fundraising. But for your school, you need to put a price. Yeah, and you can
Yeah,
discuss and see.
because anybody, not only the school.
Mm.
At the minute, what I'm talking of is because I don't have any place where what I propose is just have a few ads on, and then have people, because now I know a lot of principal all over India. I propose that Arini can either have it a physical one in India where we can invite her, and you also, Tahira, and they pay for the expenses and for their stay and for the curriculum, and we see how it works out,
I don't
is
know.
what I
I
propose.
really has to suggest that because it's up. I really, what
Yeah,
are your thoughts?
because I
Well,
cannot
I mean, I've developed. I think it's a way that you can go. I mean, the thing is that I have developed the whole system for early childhood centre, of how it works around curriculum, how it works around behaviour, how the tools are all implemented. This pilot program doesn't have the scope to be able to go into all that depth, but I've all those written documents, sort of involved with it. And so for those that would like to be able to read some of those written documents, that's something Tahira and I can talk about.
Yeah, it's not so much about reading, reading. What I mean is that coming, I would like you to come and explain it to the people, and people who have enough money to sort of start their own thing. And if they're open to the support by the council, the members who are present here, because we are first, we get to learn from you, and then we sort of have regular meetings, or say a week's, or a 2 to 3 days get together, wherein what your ideas are, we let the people in India get to know that this is it. If you are open to it, if you want to sponsor it, or you want to start your own school, is my proposal. Is like franchisee, if you
Yes.
understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but we need to first advertise the franchisee, see the wealth of wisdom that it holds, and if the people are open to it, because there's nothing like this has been introduced in India now. We still have, I'll send you a few things about Eurokids and Kidsy, and just 2 or 3 brands, and Mother's Care is very popular in Delhi, and they're supposed to be very it's supposed to be really, really good. International children, the diplomats children, they study in these schools. So our concept has to be better than them, and of course we need a larger funding than they have, because it's a major the mother's pride, or mother's something is what the name of the school is. It is one of the best well known, and people who are very rich, they do it. To compete with these, we need to first show them, it's like since I'm a branding and marketing have been head, when I want to introduce my things to people, I either bring the price down, or let them try it for free for some time, so they know what it is about, have a feel of it, taste it, and then see for themselves whether they would like to attend it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks for the ideas, Sonika. I'll discuss this with Dr. Arini. We'll discuss this after our meeting, how we're going to do this for India, and see
Something
what
just
is the approach.
something occurred to me, Tahira, about the venue itself. I think it's important to identify where the venue is going to be, but it's the venue is not something that has to be bought or leased or whatever. It's something that can be acquired just on a temporary basis, and so
Yes,
it's a place to meet.
See, that's
And
what
so
I meant. And India is one place where you get very cheap. Like in England, when I stayed at Weymouth, and the hotel per day would cost me around £140. While in India, for about 4 to 5 thousand rupees, that is just about 20 to 30 pounds, you can get a good 4-star or a 5-star place, which is amazing, with good food and good stay and clean. So depending on India is comparatively very cheap compared to any European destination or place, especially compared to England.
And I think each of the venues in Uganda or Nigeria, each has its own peculiarities of where the venue can be, and so if it's even an outdoor place with where people generally gather to have weddings or whatever, that's what we're talking about, just having a space available and identifying
Conference
what that
room,
space
probably.
is.
Yeah, in India, I would call it a conference room, or a
Yeah.
place where, yeah.
And if there's a cost associated with that, then that is identified and then charged in the ticket price. So people, have the value. So if they want to do it, they will expend energy in that, if it's money, so that they feel that they're getting something, they're investing in it, if you like. But also another way
Right.
to invest in it is to put some effort into it. So, it's a question of, I'm thinking of Uganda, for instance. Maybe the most important thing there is not to pay for it, but to travel to the venue and expend your energy in that way. So you're showing your commitment to it. Each individual venue is going to be different, and so it's a question of bringing out those characteristics.
Yeah, also, there's another suggestion. We could also tie up with these people who hold conferences in India. We have people who get all the brands, the major brands together, and then they advertise the franchisee and make people, tell them about it. If what are the good points, what are the bad points, and all that. And they can also help. That is maybe at the later stage where we can, once
Yeah.
we start
I
help,
would
and
I
then
would say it's not getting ahead of ourselves. One of the
yeah,
important things is that you've got to have a champion. Like
right,
yourself could be a champion. So you need to become familiar with what the conceptual ideas are. You're on the
exactly.
ground, and so
Uh-huh.
you're often the best person to then talk to other people about that and to support that. So it's an important point you raise, and it's something that could be built into the model how we work that.
Right. I mean, in an Indian scenario where there is so much competition and so much private schools coming up, and the government is also doing well. If you would like a pilot, I have a small NGO called Snehanchal where I teach children of slums. So if you want, of late, the Indian government has become very particular about the identity cards, like you have social security numbers in US. So the slums are getting vacated. We don't have much children. Otherwise, I would have, in case I am able to establish another place where children, slum children and other children, I can start teaching them again, because now I have an interior decorator who's ready to pay for a small room. And if I get some sponsors as well, I might pilot it in a free place for a as a for a non-governmental charity organization that I have. So I can promise something like that in case I'm able to get another lot of, the Lord gives me another set of children to start something.
Yeah, and
So
the point you make about competition is, I think I was reading something the other day and I thought this is such a true point, that if you try and integrate something new into a new system, it doesn't work
yeah,
because
right.
they're coming from a whole different space in what they're doing.
Uh-huh.
So you're better to develop a new model that will then become attractive to people to
Yes,
then participate. And I think that what we're doing here is creating a new model so that we are then creating the whole infrastructure around it in the eco society. So you have a greater chance of it being an integral part and to be integrated across the whole of the community and reinforced with the way we speak to each other, the way we understand each other. And so I think if we can understand that we're building a new model of which, because people haven't got, they've got so many criteria to meet. The governments step in and say, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to do that. And then you've got to compromise everything because you're not able to integrate something into an area that you know is a holistically integrated process. So I think that
yeah,
from my experience in education, I think that was a very, really rang a bell with me. And I thought, yes, whenever I've tried to talk to childcare centres about this, they're up to here with all of the things they've got to do. They have no space, they have no creativity to be able to do it. So you really
yeah.
have to be able to look at and saying, I will build, like Montessori did, she will build a new way of doing it. And she kept her standards of what that looked like. And that was important to the way that it developed and evolved.
Absolutely. Another thing, because I'm speaking out of experience, I have a friend, a Korean friend. She started her own play school kind of thing, and she was a complete failure for 4 years. She had not even a single child for the first 2, 3 years. It just went waste. And the third year, she got finally because she has a church, and from the church, she started having one or two students, the children of the members of the Korean church, because it's an Indian, like the society is Indian, but they don't get to learn Korean there. So she started having two. Now she has about 100, I think.
Yes.
So it takes time. People might not be able to, they might not be they might not accept anything so easily. So what I propose is a session wherein you taste and see. Is what I could be wrong. I mean, it's very simple word of, like, I am a simple person, I cannot use big vocabulary, is like taste and see for yourself, and see what changes our children have made, and consistently proving it to the people would really help. We can't expect results overnight, but God can do anything easily also. But it should be a phased, uh, like a timeline we have,
Yes,
say,
it's
for a year.
systematic and sustainable.
Right. That's exactly what I meant. Yeah.
Sonika, just one question. Which location in India were you looking at? Is it
For myself depends. See, I'm going to put out ads. Either it's going to be Delhi or it's going to be Ambala, Chandigarh. It's this place is near Chandigarh where I am at the moment, and I have a friend who's got a good hotel, and I have resources where I can start this sort of a pilot project meeting, the conference. I'm not talking about the pilot project as yet. A place where people just get together and physically know is going to be there, either Delhi or in Ambala. This is a place near Chandigarh,
you feel it
Punjab.
needs to be in person, not virtual?
Yeah, I would like it to be, because then another thing is that, see, India is one country which is very well known for education. We have people, IITNs and doctors and engineers, and people um, from India all over the world. I don't need to reiterate it. So people, the parents especially in India, are so much focused on bringing their child up. The education is very important, so much that sometimes the children don't even get to play outside. I think we need to come out of it, and our Central Board of Secondary Education is working on skill based, emotional, holistic development of child, which I think Arini's method speaks very clearly about. This is what the government of India is focusing on at the moment, and I totally resonate with it. Children, they need to play. It's not for them to ruin their. Can you believe it? They start training for IITs. That means IIT is the engineering colleges from class 5. They go home from school, they go to tuitions, then they do the homework, and they just barely get time to play. The time that they get there, either on the social media or on video games, so they don't get an hands-on experience of life. So this is what is the present scenario in India itself.
Okay. Anybody else who's not spoken would like to raise some points before we wrap up? And then we'll work out after this meeting some specifics.
Yeah.
Anybody else wants to raise anything? Some have not spoken yet.
Yeah, I would also like to add on that I'm in contact with a lot of principals at the moment, from all over India, at least 400, 500. So even if 10, 15, 20 of them come, we might be able to start something.
Hmm. So you would probably, it would work out an advertisement that you would probably have somebody who can, or some organizer that can sponsor flights and
No, they will have to cover it. Like, we will have to put a ticket on
ticket.
these
Yeah.
programs. Yeah.
Mm.
And what they pay accordingly, I can arrange for a conference room with a projector and a PPT, as somebody who's smart enough to handle a computer, so that they can change. We can have classes like a regular organized lunch break, a tea break, a lunch break, and 2 or 3 sessions per day.
Okay, we'll discuss with Arini. Anybody else? Hanatu, you would like to share anything? What you'd like to do in Nigeria? You have any ideas or thoughts? Evelyn or something, what she's saying. Evelyn is asking what kind of venue you envision for Uganda. Just a
Actually,
simple.
that was me, Tahira. I'm interested in, because I know I have an idea, I have a mental image of how Evelyn's situation is in the fields and the different community operations, and now I'm just wondering how that would work, whether she would get some people in a city or if it would be a local venue in the middle of the field operations that she has. Just I'm wondering about that. I mean, that will evolve as we start talking anyway, but.
She says it will be in the Namutumba district. Is that outside? That's obviously outside the city, right?
I would say so, but my imagination is still kind of
Ideally,
unclear.
it should be where the mothers are working and where the community is. That's where it should be.
It's a question I'll be asking each of the eco-societies, to define as we go through the early stages of the project plan.
Mm.
Yeah, Uganda, a few friends who are part of churches because I've ministered there. We can start working on that as well. Get these. They are very. They would be the few. I know a bishop and a few pastors. Maybe they can organize something,
For
but
Uganda?
they don't have. Yeah, but they are not very rich.
Is it through
So
this Andrew and team? Or is it something else, some other group?
this is this is some other group that I have. But like when I work for widows and orphans, so this fellow organized, very good at organizing. He might help out.
Yeah, I think that's what I was here. There's some very good bishops in Uganda, quite influential. It'll be good to get them involved.
I think that the main thing here is that you create a prototype of what it looks like. You know, the only way you convince people is that they have to see it and they have to experience it. And so I think to be effective, it's about what sort of group, what sort of community, what sort of venue will be an early adopter and be prepared to pilot and to then showcase what it is that they're doing. Because otherwise, people, unless they can see it, they often can't understand it.
Right. Like absolutely, I agree with you. I totally agree with
Hmm. Remember, Sonika, Andrew was showing you the map which they created for,
you. Yes.
right? Now
Yeah.
Arini and I have created something for the social brain. It is an interactive mat which they can be used quite easy. I almost completed the perfected. So that also is something as a tool which could be used as part of the pilot, and it's very
Yeah. And he did show me the
interactive.
mat, and he did show me the mat,
Yeah,
and he
that's a
also
different
asked.
one. That's a different. That
Yeah.
is based on meta frameworks. Okay? But this one is a
Yeah.
social brain, right? Is to bring understanding of the child between parents and teachers. There's a separate ones, particularly for this early childhood.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
But the ones with illustrations and things like that, the
yeah.
books that
You
learn.
haven't seen it. Yeah, you haven't seen it. I'm going to show it.
Uh-huh.
And that one will be one of the tools, which is interactive, and I think it's also it's something real which you can see. It's one example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Anybody else before we wrap up?
Yeah. I'll I have another meeting if that's okay, if I can
Yeah,
leave.
go ahead.
Yeah.
You need to go ahead. It's fine because we're wrapping up. I think
Yeah.
David Livingstone just joined in.
Thanks.
Sorry,
Take
David.
care. Bye
Yes.
bye.
Thank you, Sonika.
Bye.
Yeah, bye. David Livingstone just joined in. Well, David, we're ending our presentation now, and you can listen to the recording.
If it's any consolation, David, it was a very good presentation.
We have recording, and we will share it, and you can listen in. But I will also share the updated slides. Like I said, this is just rough points here. Okay, thank you very much. We've not heard from some of you, but you can always write privately. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Arini. Hope we didn't
Thank you.
disturb your weekend, and you can take a break.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.